Before we get started, I'd like everyone to take a moment and imagine that they sit down to play a video game. You get a little ways into the video game, and you realize that this game isn't the same game that you played yesterday. It's on the same disc, but the storyline's different, the objectives are different, the strategies you have to employ as you go throughout the game are different, the world itself is different. The game that you're playing today is completely new and unique. Does that sound like something you might be interested in? If so, you're not going to have to wait for very long. Because the future of video games is games that create themselves, and the key to that is procedural generation. Now, procedural generation is just the process of defining a set of rules and parameters that the game uses to create content. And this is nothing new. It's been around since the late 70s and early 80s, but until recently it hasn't seen very much mainstream attention. In the past, it's been used for things like textures and terrains in big open world games like Skyrim. And we've seen forays into things like procedurally generated music. However, after the release of Minecraft, which is essentially virtual Legos and managed to sell 20 million copies, procedural generation started to gain a lot of mainstream attention, and we've seen it applied to countless other areas of video game development. Minecraft itself used procedural generation in the creation of maps. Games like Left 4 Dead use procedural generation to generate content while the game is being played. Left 4 Dead specifically monitors how well the player is doing and adds or removes content to either help or hinder the player. Just this last year, we've seen procedural generation applied to quests. Two scientists created a procedural quest generator that they implemented into an EverQuest server that can essentially generate a near infinite number of objectives for the player to accomplish. And the upcoming game, No Man's Sky, is surpassing what we previously thought possible by creating an entire universe procedurally. Every star, every planet, whether or not the planets can support life, the life on planets, and the behaviors of the life forms on those planets are all done procedurally. Based on current trends, I fully expect that within the next couple of years we'll see forays into procedurally generated AI, procedurally generated dialogue, followed by entire games that are procedurally generated at runtime. Now, this is a really, really big change, and for people who are familiar with the way games are developed, it might be scary. But before you go, I want you to think about this. Would you rather be responsible for creating a game and a world and an experience like what you see in Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed? Worlds and experiences that are static and lose their novelty and their appeal very quickly? Or would you rather be responsible for creating creation itself? If you're leaning towards the second, procedural generation is how it'll happen. Thanks.